So Red Bull just sidelined Christian Horner. Remember, this is a guy who built their empire, who started from scratch, who gave them 8 drivers titles and 6 constructors, but it doesn't end here because Christian Horner still has a contract with Red Bull until 2030. So they're paying him tens of millions of dollars to just stay at home. In this video, we're going to analyze whether this was a good idea or the biggest money mistake Red Bull has ever made, or perhaps any team in Formula 1 history. And what does the future look like for Christian Horner? Are the Ferrari rumors right? Is he going to Cadillac, Audi? We'll see. All right, let's start from the beginning. Christian Horner has a £9 million a year contract with Red Bull until the year 2030. They haven't canceled this yet, so he technically isn't fired. They just told him not to go to work anymore. He's currently on what's usually called gardening leave. Now, what does gardening leave really mean, and why did Red Bull keep him tied to this team and still pay him £9 million a year for another 5 years? Well, here's the reality. Red Bull is trying to keep a firewall. Basically, they don't want to fire him because if they fully fire him, not only do they have to pay him a lot of money to cancel that contract, just like a driver's contract would work, but also Christian Horner knows more secrets than anyone else at Red Bull, which means that if they let him go, he's no longer tied to Red Bull. And we know there's rumors, and these are only rumors, that Ferrari wants him. Imagine if he goes to Ferrari with all this knowledge about Red Bull. I'm not saying he's going to turn Ferrari into champions again, but for sure they're going to be able to beat Red Bull because they know their secrets now. It would be exactly like what happened with McLaren and Ferrari with Spygate, but legal this time. And that's why Red Bull is choosing to still pay him what equals to $50 million US dollars in the term of the next 5 years so he can keep his mouth shut. That's the truth. Because imagine if Christian Horner went to Ferrari. Yes, there are budget cuts in place, but we're talking about the team with the most money, with the most prestige and legacy, and now having the team principal who's been at Formula 1 for the longest and most successful in modern F1 history at the same team. Not only that, but also knowing all of these secrets about Red Bull and what goes on internally at Red Bull and how to defeat them. And of course, I'm just speculating here, but if you get fired like that, there's about a 50% chance that he may turn against them and use this against Red Bull. So that's what they're scared of. Let's clarify though what's actually going on with the Ferrari rumors. This was started by the Italian media. They always do this. Basically, what we know is that Ferrari tried to poach Horner, try to get him from Red Bull a few years ago, which is fact checked. This is true. But now there's rumors that they're trying to get him again. Here's the reality. Like I said before, he still has a contract until 2030. If Ferrari really wanted him, they have two options. Either they wait until 2030 and then get Christian Horner, which is not going to be as valuable as he is now because he's not going to have that insider knowledge, or they could pay off his cancellation clause from Christian Horner's end of the contract. I don't have any official information about how much that is, so I'm not going to tell you it's just a rumor, but I imagine this is in the tens of millions. So as good or as bad you may think that Fred Vasseur is, me as a Ferrari fan, I have a lot of good things I can say about him and a lot of bad things I can say about him. The reality is that Ferrari has to put on a scale now whether it is worth it to pay all this money to get Christian Horner or stick to Fred Vasseur. In my honest opinion, it is way more likely that Christian Horner will go to Audi or Cadillac. And here's why, in my opinion, this looks a lot more feasible. First things first, Christian Horner is not a legacy team guy. He's a guy who started from Red Bull from scratch, and over 20 years turned it into the most powerful team in modern Formula 1 history. Even if they're not doing so well nowadays in the past year and a half, Red Bull still has been the most competitive and won the most championships in the past 10 years in Formula 1. So I really think that a team like Audi or Cadillac is a lot more reasonable of a speculation. Christian Horner not only has the knowledge, but has the resume. He's proven that he can take a team from nothing to a lot, whether you like the guy or not. Once again, this is not about him personally or the allegations. This is about his role as a team principal. But of course, you have to put on a scale when you're speculating like this, how much of that was Christian Horner's work and how much of that was Sebastian Vettel or Mark Webber or Max Verstappen's work. I'll let you decide that in the comments, but in my opinion, without a doubt, it's all of them working together. So Christian Horner does have a piece in this pie. I think that about 50% of Red Bull's success has been the drivers and another 50% has been his leadership together with Adrian Newey. And that one is a very obvious one. Look at how bad they're doing this year after Adrian Newey left them for Aston Martin. Now, if you ask me, out of these two teams, which one looks more reasonable where Christian Horner would go? I think it would be Cadillac. Why am I saying this? Cadillac has been spending so much money and time into development, and they look like they're very serious going into Formula 1. Not only that, but Audi is turning another team into Audi. So it's more of a transformation type of thing, where Cadillac is something we haven't seen in decades. They're starting from scratch, a brand new team, the 11th team in Formula 1. They already have their headquarters in 4 factories in 2 different continents. They're really working really hard and spending millions on this team. So I really think that if some somebody were to spend that money on getting a team principal and breaking that contract, it would definitely be Cadillac out of these two. Now, why am I saying this about Cadillac? Just take a look at these two articles that I'm about to show you. The first one is from Newsweek in March of 2025. This shows us how much Cadillac spent to get into Formula One. They spent reportedly, it says Cadillac reportedly spent $450 million in bold push for Formula One spot. This is what I was talking about. They have the money if they want to do it. Now, I'm not saying that Christian Horner will go to Cadillac. I think, in all honesty, most likely he would just wait it out until 2030. But if somebody were to make this push, I think it would be Cadillac. You can read this article on your own. It elaborates on all of this, but let me show you the other one that I think is even more important. This is from therace.com, a website that many of you are probably familiar with and probably watch their YouTube videos. It says Cadillac F1's plan for 150 million factory revealed. That's how much they're spending on their factory. I'm going to summarize it to you so you get the idea of how much they're investing into this team. They're going to build a factory complex in Concord and Charlotte, as well as a secondary investment, then turn it into a hub for its engine project, which they're working together with GM. This facility will ultimately work in conjunction with the base that Cadillac has set up at Silverstone. That's the overseas base that I was talking about earlier in the United Kingdom for the design and construction of its F1 car. The public hearings over the engine factory have been called because both are seeking local government grants. Now, pay close attention to this part. The factory that is planned for 10 acres of land, now this is a massive place, at Defender Way, Concord, is set to cost 65 to 70 million and is aimed at being the state-of-the-art facility. I'm not saying that he's gonna go to Cadillac. Let me make that very clear once again. My true honest opinion is that he's not gonna go anywhere and just cash the money. But if he were to go anywhere, I don't believe the Ferrari rumors. I think he would probably go to Cadillac. So to wrap it up, in my opinion, there's two outcomes out of this. Either Red Bull keeps paying him these $50 million until 2030, 9 million pounds a year, and Christian Horner just sits it out and relaxes at home, goes to the Bahamas, I don't know, spends that money, goes to the casino, which would be awesome for him. He deserves it after 20 years of hard work at Red Bull. Or one of these new teams, or even Ferrari, maybe that's true, pays for that clause and takes him in, which would be a nightmare scenario for Red Bull, a team that's not performing well, that has a new team principal, that lost Adrian Newey, that's about to lose Helmut Marko, who's about to retire, being replaced by Sebastian Vettel, which is probably not a bad idea, but these are two guys that need to adapt to the team, both team principal and Sebastian Vettel. And now they just fire Christian Horner. Yes, technically not fired, but they fired him. And also Max Verstappen is in negotiations with Mercedes. And then on top of that, imagine if Christian Horner goes to another team and knows all of their secrets. Red Bull would be doomed for the next few years. So in my opinion, the best thing that Red Bull could do right now is wait it out, pay him the money. Yes, it sucks. It's a tough situation. I don't think they should have fired him, but it's too late. They should pay him his hush money, because that's the truth, until 2030. And by 2030, when he goes to another team, if he decides to do so, unless he retires, then by that time, those secrets won't be as valuable. Time has passed. Whatever he knows about the current car probably doesn't apply. Actually, definitely doesn't apply, because we're going into the 2026 regulation and we're going to see a brand new car, completely different. So the best bet for Christian Horner is either to take an offer now and sell this information, basically, or retire. Either one doesn't really sound bad for him, because Red Bull is a team that's not doing so well anymore. And even though he was faithful for so many years to Red Bull, it was time to move on. And Christian Horner is still a young team principal, has a lot of time ahead to go to another team and create another legacy if he decides to do so. Those are my final thoughts on the Christian Horner situation. Now that you know all of the facts about his contract and the rumors, let me know what you think down below in the comments. Do you think he's going to go to Ferrari? Do you think he's going to go to Audi, Cadillac, just retire, or just let time pass until 2030, collect all that money, go to the casino? Who knows? As always, let me know down below. I'll be reading all of your comments as always. If you like this video, you can click right here to subscribe, and you can click right here to watch the next video that I created just for you. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.